Hi, I'm Dr. Rollan Roberts, and welcome to this week's Google Hangout on making millions understanding consumers. I absolutely am fascinated by this topic. I have made a lifelong habit of studying human behavior. As an ardent student of psychology and understanding what makes people tick, what makes people do and behave the way they think and behave, and the actions that they take. What is the decision-making process? What is happening consciously or subconsciously in their brain? And so what I want to do today is help you make millions understanding your market, understanding your customers, understanding why people buy from you, and understanding why people don't buy from you. And then you can decide, am I okay with that, or do I want to tweak or adjust something fundamentally so that they start buying from me? Or is that just not who we are? Is it not our culture? Is it not our market? And so understanding that really helps you focus, which is obviously a key to success. A key ingredient is being focused, and we talk about that a lot. So in order to make millions understanding consumers, you have to first realize that there are two types of consumers, generally speaking, and there's a number of different areas and subcategories within these, but generally speaking, there's business consumers and individual consumers. So you're either selling to individuals. In that case, you'll hear people talk about B2C. B2C just stands for business to consumer. And then you'll hear about B2B. That's businesses selling to businesses. And so you have the business consumer and you have the individual consumer. The sales strategy, the sales method, perhaps the distribution, all of those things are different, including the buying process, including the way they think. What's fascinated me is how the vice president of IT at one company or HR at one company can evaluate a buying decision. You may have a 12 to 24 month sales cycle where you're selling something a little bit cheaper and easier and less strategy going into it. So maybe it's a 60 to 90 day sales cycle. And then that same person, that same VP of IT and HR that requires a litany of support for the buying decision will then make some erratic, seemingly erratic, impulse buys in their personal life. The very same person that makes the decisions for the company, they use different barometers. They use different logic when they are purchasing on behalf of making the company, when they are a business consumer, and then at 5 o'clock when they become an individual consumer. Same person, and they literally, the switch flips. So here's what I want you to understand first of all. Generally speaking, people buy for two reasons: to gain pleasure or to avoid pain. Okay, so obviously there are impulse buys, and it's just because, and it's convenience, not because they needed to, but it could just be simply a matter of convenience. But you could always drive back and say, well, which one of those two base needs drove that urgency for why convenience became the reason they bought here versus there. But I'm wanting to really back up and just understand consumers in general. So number one, business consumers, I'm going to give you three things that you need to understand of how business consumers think. Number one, you need to understand their motive. Okay? The person that you're trying to sell to, it varies whether it's a manager, whether it's an entrepreneur, a business owner, whether it's the director, whether it's the vice president, or whether it's the CEO. It matters and it varies if you are selling to sales, marketing, operations, maybe an efficiency software or a dashboard and tracking software, or sales and marketing. You're selling funnels and automation systems and customer intelligence and things. Or maybe you're selling accounting software to finance and administration, and you may be selling HR management, people services type software and applications to HR. So it depends on the arena that you're in, division that you're selling, but more importantly to me than the arena or the division is the level. So if you are selling a manager or even a director, in most cases, except for Fortune 500 companies, they would be the equivalent of like a VP at a smaller company. But if you're selling directors and below, there's a very different approach that you are able to take, and they have a very different motive than a VP, an SVP, an EVP, or a president or CEO would have, or certainly an entrepreneur, business owner. They even have yet another. So understand their motive. The motives for entry-level managers and below, supervisors, managers, and some directors, really. The directors are still trying to earn their stripes. They're trying to become a VP so bad. They're kind of stuck in the middle. They're more advanced than the management, but yet they're not quite into that senior leadership, vice president and above role. And so they're just kind of hanging out in the middle. They're trying to crack that ceiling. So they're still trying to prove something to themselves and obviously to the company that they work for. So directors, what I have found, people in that middle category, you will deal with egos more in that category than you in that title than you will perhaps even in others, because the ones that the closer you get to the front line, you get to work with people who are more open, they're more transparent, they are more interested in getting things in-house that will make their lives easier. That's what they are all about. And if you and you can't you can't tease them, you can't trick them. They know what they want and what they truly need. And so what you don't get is the big strategy. What you don't get is this big rollout. What you get is adoption, and you get champions. And this isn't about sales, but you do want to have the boots on the ground support, especially if you have to take the ball upfield and to get purchasing decisions and buying decisions, and someone, a CFO signing off on a PO. So understand their motive. Understand that they may be buying your product or service to get promoted, to look smart. People have bought stuff just to show that they found you and the other person didn't. There are times where I've seen boardrooms where companies went with an entire application and it had nothing to do with price, service, features, benefits, or anything else. It had everything to do with it wasn't, so-and-so wasn't going, we weren't going to go with their candidate just because it was so-and-so. We're not going to go with their service provider. Had nothing to do, even if it cost more. So it's critical to understand the business consumer. There's a whole lot of other variables. There's the internal politics. There's who's making the recommendation, who owns that division, what the relationship is between them and the owner or the CEO or the CFO. That also determines whether your project, sits for a month or a year. These are all critical things to understanding the business consumer. Even the person that has the ability to say yes may not be the same person who writes the check or who signs the PO. So what you really have to understand is the real buyer is the CFO in that case. It's not the person you think is the buyer. So when you're trying to understand the business consumer, the first suggestion I have is get the right consumer. People who do this for a living, day in, day out, at the highest levels, forget this. You know why? Because it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's nice talking to the guy who loves your product, who enjoyed their trial, who is championing you internally. That's fun to hear how amazing you are in the product and service you represent is. What's not fun is delicately, strategically approaching and contacting the person that you really need to be contacting, the real buyer, the true buyer. Those are support variables that are required in a business consumer sale, but they're not the real buyers. They contribute to the buying decision, and the real buyer is the person that is whipping out the credit card or signing the PO. So understand the motive. Getting promoted, understanding the internal politics. They just want to be right. It could be they're buying your service just to snub the nose of someone else, and it could be that it's just going to save them time. This is a personal, it doesn't do anything major for the company. It's just going to make their life easier, and it's worth it to them for that. So understanding motive is wildly important to understanding your consumer. And even if you sell the same thing to the same industry day in, day out, you will be making the biggest mistake of your career and hurting your company to make the assumption that all of the motives are the same for all managers and all directors and all vice presidents because they're in the same job that everybody else is in. That's a big mistake to make, because what you don't understand is timing. And timing changes everything in someone's career, in the life of a business. There are in all kinds of businesses in the same industry are up when others are down, and there's constant ebb and flow. And so you never know where someone is at with that or with the company, and that's critical. Number two, understand that to make millions from business consumers, that justification for that purchase is going to be required. Justification is going to be required. Now, to some degree, that is also the case with individual consumers, but it's not always true. Sometimes there is a split-second justification for consumers. That's not what I'm talking about for business. Business, you're not going to have split-second justification unless you're dealing with a couple guys in their garage. But if there's an enterprise of any size, there's going to be a business case made. There's going to have to be the logical, rational features, function, how it works, how can this be customized, can it be branded to us, if we're reselling, what is our price points, what are the minimums, what's the time frame for the manufacturing. So there's a host of variables, but regardless, it requires justification. Okay, and so you need to help them build a case. And I've oftentimes, even if someone's going to put something out to RFP, you can offer to advise them on that RFP, what it should look like, or you can give them, hey, here's what we have found to be the best RFP you can submit to make sure you're getting your needs met. Because sometimes the problem is companies don't know the questions to ask. That's why they're requesting more information anyway, because it's not just bids, it's help us evaluate our needs. We don't even know the questions to ask to get started. We think we know, and we have a starting point, but we obviously haven't thought of everything, and we want you to help us mastermind. So there is that dynamic. Here's one thing I want to tell you when it comes to justification and helping them build their case. I don't want you to get married to the person that you are helping build the case. And the reason is because I've seen too many times where people have worked with their contact for 18 to 24 month sales cycle, and then the person gets fired, or the person quits, or something happens. And even if you have established relationships, and the hallway relationships are even the best, meeting people in the elevator, walking past the offices, and getting a chance to just bump into them in the hallway. I've met more CEOs by just being in their building, and more of the CFOs and the actual buyers just by walking with my contact through the halls and bumping into these other folks, the key decision makers, and being introduced to them. And that has made all the difference, time and time again. So, so that's important. Establishing relationships up, down, sideways, other departments, other direct reports, people who seemingly don't even have any connection here. It's critical to do that. And I've done that, and they've still all quit or been fired or gone on maternity leave at the same time. So, but I'm telling you, you can do everything you can to help them with the business case, to help justify this logically and rationally. There's several ways you can do that. You may, based on your industry, you just need to be able to give them in a format. Maybe it is case studies. Maybe it's an actual business case that includes an Excel spreadsheet with an ROI based on whatever the length of time is appropriate in your industry. Maybe it's a little packet that has the ROI calculator. It has your case study. It from a couple of or a few customers. Maybe it has some where you stand in your industry association, what kind of rating you have, what kind of certifications you have if you're in an industry that relies heavily on education, and what certifications you've been acquired, such as real estate industry or things. And so there's a number of ways that you can just help someone justify their buying decision. The third thing you need to understand when trying to make millions from business consumers is that they value the mating game. And I hate it. I don't like to play games. I shoot straight, and I wish everyone could just get to the point. It would save a lot of time, and that's just not how it works. And so I've had to get used to this and adapt and work within this system that most people find themselves in. For example, discounting. I can't stand a discount. That's a game to me, and I don't want to play games with people. I don't want to play games with companies. If you want the product or you want the service and it's priced accurately, it's priced fairly, then buy it. But that's not. But that would be discounting and not understanding how much they value the mating game. And it's kind of like, I always get this vision of like watching National Geographic or the PBS channel or something like that, where animals out in the wildlife, the peacock would flare up, all of these feathers and try and show off to get the girl to think he's something special. Or a lion spends days, showing how masculine he is and showing off and killing a bunch of food and bringing it back and showing what a man he is. So that the girl will like him, and it's constantly this back and forth, and she kind of, may play standoffish, or maybe she acts a little bit interested, and whenever she does this, then he does this, and whenever she does this, he may do that, and because neither one wants to seem too anxious, and I mean, it's just this whole game, and I equate, and it really is when you study the behavior, almost identical to how animals act in nature, in the mating process. So understand that. Discounting. It doesn't matter how bad they need your product. They could be out and need it immediately. It could be the most urgent thing, and most are still going to try and get a discount from you. And the reason for that is because it's just part of the expectation. If they didn't, it has become a sign that they are poor negotiators, that they are weak business people, that they're not a good director. Once again, you're supposed to help them build their case study, and when you don't give them something, including in pricing, then you haven't fully helped them build their case. But the way I always got around this was I kept building value. I kept adding value. I would give them other things instead of price to add that justification. So, for example, maybe I was able to extend a 10 or 15 day terms to them. Maybe I was able to do something extra for them, throw in an extra license or for software, or maybe we were able to do this. And if worse came to worse, and they always ask for a 10% discount or a 20% discount, and if they asked for a 10 or 20% discount, I would usually come back with like 2.15% discount or 1.6% discount. When someone asks for 20% off, and you give them you tell them I can't do 20, but I can do 10. Guess what they come back with every single time? They don't say thank you. They say we'll do it if you can meet us at 15%. That's what most people do. But that's not what you should do. When someone asks for 20%, and I don't care if everybody in the industry is giving it, you're different, you're better, you have a stronger product, you have more quality, you have more service, you have whatever it is that sets you apart, then my response would be, I would love to give you 20%. I just can't. I can give you, and then I go through several other things first, not all at once, but over the course of the process, the mating game. And then, if I absolutely must, I would then come back and say, well, I can give you a 2.1% discount. I can give you a 1.85% discount. Now, if I come back and say I can give you a 1.85% discount every single time, you know what I've had happen? They come back and they say, is there any way you can at least do 2%? That's right. The same people who are wanting 20% or more now are asking me for a 2% discount when they would have gotten 10 from any other sales division in the company. So understanding consumers can make you millions or cost you millions based on your understanding of what really is happening. So those are some things to keep in mind as part of the business consumers, selling to business consumers. Now, when you are trying to make millions from individual consumers, it's a different game entirely. In fact, I have been re-educated the past 3 weeks on this exact phenomenon. I have 2 stories to share with you briefly. The first is I've been opening up, the company that I'm the CEO of, we are opening up kiosks, Jenga baby bars around the country. And so these kiosks are fascinating. It's a fascinating concept. It's pioneering in the infant nutrition category. And one of the products that we have is for Skolin, which is it's an advanced fat targeting belly melt type of a product that stimulates the metabolism to burn fat from the inside, and especially in the belly fat region. And so it's just it's the plant for Skolin from India. And so I had that product, and the gentleman that owns the mall that I've been working in 100 hours a week for the past 3 weeks stopped by the other day, and he said, I would bet that 90% of the people who walk through those doors are your customer. And he was purely making that observation based on the weight, the extra weight that 90% of the people who walk in that mall are carrying. And I said, I wish that was the case, but that's not the case. Because what I have found is the larger the individual, the less they care about doing something about it. In fact, the less they even view it as a problem. So when I shared with him, actually, it's more like 10% of the people who come through those doors are my customer. And that's because out of all of the people who could use the product effectively, only 10% want to avoid pain or gain pleasure. Only about 10% are willing to do something about the problem. They recognize it as a problem, and they are willing to listen to options to solve that problem. The same goes for your product or service and business. Not everybody, you have a product for women. That's fantastic. Guess what? Your market is not women. I know every woman could use it, but every woman will not buy it from you. My question is, who are the women who will buy it from you? See, what I have found is that for that particular product, it works best, or it is most popular for young ladies in their 20s and to early 30s. And then I get the ones that are between 40 and 55. I am getting those two age ranges, and the younger girls have very little to lose. They may have 5 to 10 pounds that they're that's kind of the stubborn fat that won't come off that they're wanting to address. And then the 40 to 55 category, these ladies are around 30 pounds overweight that they're trying to get rid of and looking for help and support. Especially, and that's great if you had a stalled or slowed metabolism. And of course, as they age, that tends to happen based on the reduced activity that they participate in and their diet and so forth. So those two age ranges, while it's good for men and women, what I've also found is we have probably only sold to 2 men. And I sold to the second one today. 2 men. The rest have been women. So, yes, my product would help everyone that has that need. But everyone that is carrying a few extra pounds is not my customer. So understanding consumers, individual consumers, and how they think and how they make buying decisions is vastly different. It's not enough to watch every single overweight person walk by the kiosk and go, they need this, they need that. And by the way, if you have any great lines to catch someone's attention as they walk by, leave them in the comment section. Let us know, because we've joked about all kinds of different ways. I mean, when they walk by, I want to be able to just kind of pat my stomach and say, hey, you want us to help trim that up? Or, we've even thought about having some fun with it, or, hey, I'd really love to help you with that. But a lot of people won't even make eye contact. They definitely won't approach the kiosk a lot of times due to embarrassment whenever that product is the main focal point. Now, I have a second story that ties into that. So I understood that early on, and so one of our other products is a gummy bear multivitamin. Now, it says on the label that it's a super fortified multivitamin for kids. They're delicious gummy bears. They've got a lot of B12, but really the difference is that they taste better than any other gummy bear on the market. Most of them are chalky and they're really chewy. And they don't have that burst of all natural fruit flavors, grape, cherry, strawberry, lemon, orange. They don't have that strong burst that a normal gummy bear or something like that would have. These do. So because of the taste and because of the good price point and because of the strong, the good nutrient panel, I use that to get people to the kiosk. So, for example, if someone walks by and they have kids, I would ask, hey, would you mind if they have a gummy bear vitamin? It's really healthy for them. And, usually the parents will say, sure, yeah, if they want one. And it's not a problem. So, I use the tongs and I give them the gummy bear. And then the parents start asking me about forskolin. That has happened in probably 80% of our sales. Okay, so the gummy bears vitamins made it okay for them and gave them a reason to come check out what they wanted to check out anyway. And furthermore, what usually happens, this is what happened on Sunday. Okay, this past Sunday, there was a lady, a mom, and her son. He was probably around 8 or 9 years old. Dairy Queen we're a kiosk in the middle of the mall. There's 4 corner stores surrounding us. Dairy Queen is one of those corner stores. So we get to see all of the people. The tables are right in front of us, literally probably 20 feet. There are benches that are about 10 feet away from us, and people will get their ice creams in their blizzards, and they will sit there, and they can hear our promotional video playing for the products, and especially for the forskolin weight loss product. And so it was so ironic because this lady and her son, after they finished the blizzard and the hamburger and fries that they were eating, they walked by going to another store, and I thought, prime candidate. She is my target customer, age range, the extra weight that she's carrying. She has a child. I mean, all about it was perfect. They were great age for the gummy bears. It can be for 2 years of age and above. So I asked, I said, would you mind if he has a gummy bear? Is it okay if he has a gummy bear vitamin? It's really good for him. It tastes it tastes great. And she said, well, yeah, I guess that'll be fine, but I need to see the ingredients. So she's looking at the supplement fact panel. She's looking this over, and she goes, you know what? I actually want to take this to his doctor before I let him have one. I need him to review it. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, that's fine. And I was just so shocked because here's a mom that just got done feeding her kid Dairy Queen blizzards, hamburger, and fries. And what I wanted to say was, would you do me a favor? When you take this fact panel to his doctor, would you please take the fact panel from the blizzard you just gave him and the hamburger you just gave him and the French fries you just gave him? I mean, I'm just concerned about his health here, and I'm right there with you. Let's just take it all to the family doctor. Let's have him look it over. So that has all kinds of junk in it. This has all kinds of vitamins in it, but you need to take the thing with the vitamins to the family doctor? Are you nuts? I mean, it's absolutely insane. But I can't tell her she's wrong. I can't tell her she's crazy. I can't tell her she's thinking the polar opposite the way she should be thinking. So how do I understand that consumer? And she's not the only one. We've had that said to us before. Something very similar. Right after they get done eating Dairy Queen. It's the most bizarre thing. But it's really not. If you understand consumers and if you understand who your market is. So I want to give you some suggestions that most individual sales, individual consumers follow. Now, this is outside of the rash or impulse buy, but so generally speaking, these are some the process that will help you best understand individual consumers. Number one, understand the cycle is that they need to see your product or brand, and it helps if they have seen it before. Okay, I'm going to use several different examples here. They may have, so we're really what this means, the net is go get your product in front of them, or your service or your brand or whatever it is, repeatedly, I might add. And it doesn't matter whether it's you or someone else. Maybe they saw the product on TV. Maybe they saw it on the Dr. Oz show or a talk show. Or maybe your business has a funny name, and so they remember it. We have people ask us all the time, what does Jenga mean? And so much so that we included it as part of our story. And so it gets people asking questions. They may have seen it in the newspaper. Maybe they did a write-up or a story on you. Maybe you had sponsored an event. Maybe you've advertised online, offline. You know, whether it's you or someone else, it helps significantly if they are able to connect some dots, because that's what builds what's happening. And the reason why that's important is because they're building their own justification, except you don't use case studies, you don't use an ROI calculator, Excel spreadsheets, and all of these things. What you're using is justification in the business case for an individual consumer. It makes no sense, but it's just the way it works. So don't try and figure out, that part out. That doesn't make any money solving that why. What makes sense is to take the information, take the data, and use it to your advantage in this constraint. So understand that when they see your name or product or service in multiple places, it gives it credibility. You help them justify the purchase. And one of the things I love best about what Seth Godin has eloquently stated, and he's right spot on, is that people buy, individual consumers buy things because that's what people like me buy or do. So when it comes to understanding their behavior, they will do things because that's what people like us do. People like us eat at restaurants like this. People like us wear clothes like this. People like me go to events like that. People like me do this and buy that. So it is understanding which group and behaviors does a single consumer most identify with. You might be able to tell this by their dress. You might be able to tell this by their behavior, their actions. You can tell this by their aura, their personality, how fast they're walking, how slow they're talking, how demanding they are, how urgent they are. There's all kinds of signals that you can pick up on. It's kind of like when I went door to door when I was campaigning for the Senate. And, I would know so much about the person long before I knocked on the door. I mean, I had to pass by their car that had all these stickers on the back. And, I knew if where they stood on every hot button issue before I got to the door. And they're probably flying, if they're flying an American flag or any other kind of flag. I mean, you can just learn so much about where this person is coming from. Same thing with consumers. Everything they do is screaming information to you. You have to be able to pick up on that in order to be successful. So it helps when they can have seen your product, brand, or service multiple times in other places. Second thing to understand, because that's the justification. So there is justification, but that's what it looks like for an individual consumer. The second thing is they need to hear the problem that you solve, and really what this is association. So once they know who you are and the product, who you are and what you're about, then the next it's who you are and what you do. What problem do you solve? And so they're equating a product, service, or brand with what problem do you solve? Because if I have that problem today or in the future, I will then evaluate whether I use you or someone else or use your product or fix the problem with a different product. And so that's what's critically important, is that they then hear the problem you solve. If people know your brand and they don't know what you do, you're not going to make the sale. If people thought Ginga Baby was a clothing line, I would be in trouble. They need to know what product and products, what problem we solve. We predominantly focus on the infant nutrition market. Okay, so we solve infant nutrition, healthy, organic infant nutrition. So a lot of things can fall under that category. And hey, maybe we will sell diapers and bibs and bottles and pacifiers and whatever else. You know, baby blankets out of a kiosk that has breast milk like baby, infant foundation formula. And kids gummy vitamins for 2 years old and above. Maybe we have some additional products, but we are an infant nutrition women's empowerment company. That's who we are. So they know the problem we solve by our culture, but it is also equated to people like us do things like this. People like us buy from people and from companies like you. So the third element that I want you to understand to the individual consumer buying behavior is that after they hear the problem and know the problem you solve, then that's when they need to know how it works. It's almost opposite of the way business consumers work. Normally you start with the logical, but with consumers, you don't start with the logical. You're starting with the emotional of here's what our product, service, widget, brand is, and here's the problem that we solve. Don't you have that problem? Don't you hate it when fill in the blank? Have you ever experienced fill in the blank? This pain. Have you ever experienced, already using the one bottle of formula that you packed that day, and you're at the mall and you ran into some friends and you talked to them for 30 minutes or an hour, and you really wanted to go to 2 more stores, and then you were supposed to meet people at dinner, but you can't because little Johnny is screaming, cats and dogs right now, and everybody in the mall wants to take him out, and they think you're a horrible parent, but you got held up, and so you have to decide: do I go home, or do I spend a couple dollars and get this single serving breast milk like infant foundation formula, goat milk colostrum, and all this, something very healthy for him? Well, clearly that convenience and the elite branding and things like that, there's a problem that's being solved. But it started with the emotional need. It started with an emotion. Then it goes into the logic for consumers, individual consumers. So now they need to know, okay, I want to do this. I have this problem. What's in this again? Oh, it's goat milk and goat milk colostrum. Oh, from the first 4 milkings postpartum. Oh, goat milk cream. Oh, this is a really strong product. Oh, and you can put a natural fortifier in there so that baby goes to sleep, afterwards while I'm still shopping at the other 2 stores, or, my baby's kind of fussy. Oh, I can put in a different natural fortifier for that, and I can put in a different one for colic, if I got a colicky baby, but then they're wanting to know things. So now I'm into the features. I'm into that, how it works. Here's what this is going to do. Here's what it contains. This is the features. Here's how fast my widget is. Here's how smooth it runs. Here's the user interface. Here's the reports it'll give you. Here's the way this works. Here's the way it operates. Let me show you. That's the how. Now we're getting into the features and the function of your product and service. Then, and this is number 4, you have to circle back to emotion. You can't rely on logic on individual consumer purchases. You bring it back to emotion, and this is the why. This is how it solves their problem. This is great that they had a need, and we have this great product that's going to fill their need. But the question comes down to will this solve my problem? Is this how I want to solve my problem? Why are you the best solution to my problem? And listen, friends, the answer to that question is emotional. It's emotional. It's what's going to happen with their baby. Ginga means effortless flair. It's an almost mystical quality that some possess or is said to possess. It actually describes the Brazilian people, and it describes how they move gracefully and with class, and how it just kind of ebbs and flows through them, how they walk and talk, and evident in how they live. And so if you want the very best for your baby, if you want a Ginga baby, if you want the best baby possible, then you give them the very best infant nutrition. Do you want a Ginga baby? Okay, now that's not what I would ask, but that's the emotion, that's the essence of what is coming across. If you want to do something good for your baby, don't you want to do something good for your baby? This is the best thing you can do for your baby. So you circle back to how it solves their problem and why you are the best solution to their problem. And here's the other secret. I have to keep giving these tips and secrets. Don't make it about you or your product. The reason your product or service is the best for that customer has nothing to do with you. Don't jump back. Don't revert back to the features. It has everything to do with, I'd love to save you the $10 on gas and the hour it's going to take you to get back home, and then 30 minutes to come back out into town. And those are all the things, those are the problems that I'm really solving. Yes, little Junior's hungry over here, but it's more than that. It's if you stop and go home, you don't get to get these sales. These sales are going to end. You're supposed to go meet friends for dinner. You're going to lose about an hour and a half. And the truth of the matter is, you're probably going to go home and not feel like doing any of it anyway. I mean, so you're solving a lot of problems for people. But it's not because my product is so great and this and that and all the features I just got done telling you. Last story for you. One of the other stores across from us is a jewelry store. And they just had their regional guy come in, and all of them were on pins and needles, and he was training them on a new sales technique. Now, it's kind of ironic timing to be doing that in the middle of a 5-day push that they had, special. But they have a sales girl there that is really strong. She's really good, very personable, naturally goes through the proper sales process because she's just so authentic. She's genuinely interested in people, and she genuinely has skills, sales skills. So, and one night after he left, the two ladies that were working there came over and were telling me about this new sales technique that he had been training them on, and how whenever they were slow, he would bring them in the back and they would role play and have to, he would have them do, basically they were following an approach, assess, feature, function, benefit, protocol. And he would nail them on, features and benefits. And every time they would say, he'd say, okay, tell me features. Okay, great. Now tell me benefits. And he'd be like, nope, that's a feature. Nope, that's a feature. Nope, that's a feature. And she said, I'm really good naturally at selling, but when I consciously think about the difference between features and benefits, or when I'm role playing with him, I mess up. I only give features. I can't pull the benefits out, and I get them confused. And so I gave those two girls some ideas and how I've always keep those two distinct. And this is important because we're talking about selling to individual consumers. And the way I've always simplified the difference between feature, function, and benefits are feature function is how it works, and a benefits is why I care that it works like that. Feature function, here's how it works, here's what it does, here's the clarity of the diamonds, here's how rare it is, here's the way it was mined, here's who mined it, here's who assessed this, here's who appraised it. Those are all features. Why do I care? Are the benefits. This is our most popular ring. This is the ring that Princess Diana wore. This is the ring that celebrity so-and-so absolutely loves. This is their favorite cut. This is, the most popular among, and then you're identifying with whatever group they associate with, because people like them buy stuff like this. That's what I'm telling them, that in the benefits section. And so when you understand that one is how it works and the other is why I care that it works like that, and why would I even care, it really helps you understand the difference between features and benefits. So that's how I simplified it for them. And as always, I can help you make millions understanding your customer and tailoring these attributes to your specific situation. I have a $195 an hour visual coaching call that we can do. There's no minimums. You can just buy 1 hour if you want, and we can walk through your specific situation. I'd love to help you there. Join me next week as I speak to and about network marketers. I mean, have you ever had or been approached with someone trying to sell you something, or wanting you to sign up for their network marketing plan, their network marketing company? And how did you feel? How did they approach you? And I'm going to be talking to them next week, because I've been approached as well. And I was approached, I dealt with a gentleman yesterday, and I use that word loosely. I dealt with one yesterday. And so next week, I'm going to be addressing network marketers. And it doesn't matter whether you are one or if you have been approached by one, you don't want to miss it. If you are one, you need to hear this so that you don't make some of these mistakes. If you aren't one and have been approached by one, watch it for the humor in it, and watch it because you can know a quality class act when you see it next time. You'll know the professionals from the amateurs if you watch this. It's going to be a hard-hitting segment that you do not want to miss. I'm Dr. Rollan Roberts. Thanks for watching, and remember, success likes speed.